Hi, I'm Sinijom Awushi Adadavo, Chief Photographer, CEO Images Image. Welcome to another edition of the Covid19 Diaries. There's been a notion that sports journalism or sports journalists should do nothing or know nothing but sports. The furthest we could go international is the national teams, in our case the Blasters. But there's been one man in recent times who has debunked totally this theory. Today our guest is Mr. Gary Al-Smith. Gary, you're welcome.
Thank you, Senator John, for having me. It's a pleasure.
Thank you. Mr. Al-Smith, I don't know if you know, but you are an unofficial ambassador of #KickoutCorona, Kickout Covid19. What do you say to that?
Well, it wasn't my intention, first of all, to become an ambassador for it. I was just trying to put information out there for my following to be abreast with what is going on, initially from a sporting angle, and then as things became more serious, giving more general news. And so if people see me as an ambassador, then I suppose that's a good thing, but for me it's just me doing
it. Of course, it's a beautiful thing, and it shows what I've always been saying, that sports journalism is a specialization. So you can't say that because somebody is a dentist, he can't see to your headache. You know, to become a dentist, you first need to do a general practice in medicine. So to become a sports journalist, you first need to learn journalism as a whole and then, focus on sports. Gary, now being the ambassador, tell us what's the latest on this war we're fighting globally. In Ghana here, what's the latest?
Well, globally we are going up and up and up. We are entering the millions when it comes to the number of cases, and the deaths have also exceeded 100,000, unfortunately. Domestically, we are part of the larger African picture, where we are seeing an increased emphasis on having lockdowns, and then countries are trying to go ahead of the virus with isolation and testing and then quarantine measures. Ghana is not left out there. However, our recoveries are only 17 at the moment, and we have in excess of 630 cases of COVID-19 in Ghana. So that's where we are. There's a lot of talk and chat around many things, from the citizenry to the government, about what to do, how to do it. Some people agree to some things, some people don't agree. So that is what is going on. But you cannot escape COVID-19 in our daily lives now, because it is affecting everything in our country.
And that has been my line, that you may not have been infected, but you've been affected. And we may all not be infected, but we are all being affected globally. There's nobody who is not facing it. So tell me, there's been this cry that despite the lockdown in Accra, you still see that many people, and then there's even traffic at certain times. I have been a very law-abiding citizen, so I've been locking down. But you have had to go to work as a media on shift. Tell me, have you seen this, and what's your take on it, and what do you think the powers that be are doing towards it?
At the time of recording this interview, it's day 17 of the lockdown in Accra, or in Ghana. That's specifically Accra, Kumasi, Obuasi, Kaswa, and the allied areas, metropolitan and municipal areas. From the very beginning, the first 2 days or 3 days or so, there was what you would call strict compliance, because the fear was there. But as people came to understand the messaging and came to understand that there were different categories of people who were allowed to go out under the banner essential services, you had the feeling that people became bolder and took more advantage, or had more latitude to go out there.
Okay.
And the police and security personnel were also, you had a feeling that they were told to be very lenient with people, and so they were not sort of being too hard on people and telling them to go back. Once you could show them any form of identification and documentation, you could go out and be out there to say whatever, to do whatever you said you were going to do. So the net effect of that was that we had quite a number of people out there, and you did get the impression that this was not going to help our efforts if we wanted to clamp down on the virus. Because why do you lock down? You lock down because
you don't want
the
human
essential services and the essential workers to be able to have as few people as possible having the virus, so that as few people as possible will be overwhelming our precious little health facilities already. And the few policemen and military men and the security agencies we have to be able to check more people more thoroughly. That is why you have a lockdown. If you have more people, it decreases the number of checks police and military can make. It means then that more people with symptoms cannot be referred to the hospital. It means then that more people will get sick. It means then that the few hospital beds available to people who actually need it will be for people who did not need to be there. So we saw this, there was a hue and cry, and in the president's last address, you got the feeling that he gave the military and the police and the security agencies at large a bit more power, or a bit more discretionary powers to be able to tell people not to be out there. So and whether it is working, we are yet to see, but what is unmistakable is that less number of people are able to go around than in the last or the first 5, 6, 7 days of the lockdown when it was imposed.
That's a good news. Yesterday, I got to know through, of course, your platform, and I must really commend you. You're doing well, because you see, you put the news there in a bit of informal way, so everybody can relate. So it's not like some chunky press message that people will just go and like. And that's the thing, people can like things without reading, but the way you put it in a very conversational form and stuff makes people read and comment, oh Charlie, and all that. So that is beautiful. I read on your wall yesterday that the police had apprehended some people whom they suspected.
So those 2 people were from Niger.
Okay.
It is not clear how they got into the country at the moment, but what we know is that the police found them, on the streets in a taxi, I believe the report said, and while giving them a random check, asking them a few questions, they noticed that the 2 people were not telling similar stories. Also, catching their interest was the fact that they had a lot of suitcases, and they looked like they were traveling. So the police were a bit suspicious, and it looks like one thing led to the other. They decided that no, these guys are people we need to keep an eye on. They took them through the processes. Eventually, they landed at the Ridge Hospital. Tests were conducted, and those 2 people were found to be positive. Now, the update after I put out that post, 3 hours later, the report came that from the police, no less. An official statement said the police were not handling the 2 Nigerians anymore at the hospital because they had refused to be treated and to be quarantined.
That is wicked.
So those, they have refused to cooperate. So the police have taken them back to the police station. But this is what we are talking about. It has become a chaotic situation because you need policemen who would hitherto have been on the road checking more people to now handle these people. You need housing that will be paid by the taxpayer to now feed them, clothe them, whatever, and they are not being in quarantine. And this is a burden on the taxpayer. So this is a classic example of why people should be vigilant. People should be it's not snitching, but if you see that, no, your neighbor is exhibiting signs or symptoms that suggest that something is not right, you place a call to the relevant authorities and so on. So this is the update on that very disturbing situation.
Yes, it's really disturbing. As much as it's a happy news that the police discovered, something, it raises 2 issues for me. In fact, 3 issues. Was the taxi driver also tested? Did we know if the taxi driver was tested? It wasn't mentioned. Second, how were the police clothed? Have the police themselves who did this apprehension, this arrest, were they tested? Because they would have spoken with them for that length of time to have come out that no, the stories don't add up. Were they tested? Aside being tested, have they been clothed enough? Is that protection for them? Because if you have to talk to a person this extensively to get to know that something isn't adding up, you need to be protected. Then thirdly is the fact that these people could actually protest that they don't want to be treated. Then it goes to the story that people all over the world, right, the very earliest stage is Pram Pram, where the case that Sam George is pushing is that Pram Pram, the soccer man, the space that GFA has given has not been walled. Do you get it? Because we get some few people who are this stubborn. It hasn't been walled. So people could just easily run out. It's the same case. That same case came up in some districts in the US, the Orange County, where they were saying that a place that has been donated by a philanthropist was too much in town. So for me, then you see, how could they protest? Could they handcuff to a bed because they become national threat? You know, how could they be? And then you've been taken, and the fourth one then is you've been taken to the police station. Hello, what are the steps there for the police to handle, you know, a virus case?
So yeah, I mean, all these questions are things that people have been asking in the last, or in the intervening period since the news broke out that these people did not want to cooperate. But the police have not given any information as to what they are doing at the moment. But we can only hope and trust that they are safeguarding themselves and making sure that all these questions have been answered properly.
What is your stand on the Ghana football? Should the leagues be suspended? Should it be ended like the Germans did, that who stood anywhere, that's your position? Or should it be suspended and then continued when all is settled?
I've heard Dr. Prince Pambo say that it should be cancelled. One time, you know, head of the medical committee at the GFA say that it should be cancelled and we should start again because it doesn't make sense for us to wait. I've also heard others say that we should wait it out and finish the season. I think that I should be honest and say that I'm not really decided yet because our case is quite peculiar from, if that's the correct expression, those of the Premier League, the Belgian League and so on. Belgium are the ones who have said that the league should end right now. Whoever was first should be first, second and so on. And even then, they are now looking at how to solve the relegation problem. They are now looking to, so they have declared that the top four and stuff should remain the same, those in the middle, but the relegation, they are asking for some time to bring out a verdict on that, which shows you that for even those who have made a decision, it still remains complicated. It's not clear cut. Now, in our case, we have played only 15 matches, 1-5, out of a possible 30 something. I mean, half the season we're just about to reach the first round, the end of the first round when this thing happened. Yeah. It is not that easy to make that determination, considering that people have spent money, people have spent effort, and so on. And how again do you go about the relegation? How again do you? So this is the time we need clear leadership from the GFA. Whatever their decision they take, they should back it with sound reasoning because not everybody is going to accept. I mean, you're looking at teams like Mediana and Mediama who are, you know, first and second. Mediama already are looking to pursue some legal matters because they were docked points that Olympics won in the boardroom and so on and so forth. So for me, honestly, I'll just raise my hand up and say I've not fully made up my mind on what the best thing should be, because if COVID should go away, which is unlikely in May, June, because a lot of countries, Ghana included, are yet to reach their peak of infections. We are nowhere near the peak of infections. Yeah. Meaning that if you look at anecdotal evidence, we are probably going to reach our peak late May, June, thereabouts. That's a very long time for players to be at home, to not have trained. Anytime basically that we decide to come back and play football, we will need at least 3 weeks to a month from the dates that we declare the end of the lockdown and normal activity in the country can resume, for players to have match fitness and then play the football. So that obviously is going to be a big headache. What does it have implications for? It's for money, for those who have paid rights for television, for players who have contracts that are being paid as we speak, for those who are not being paid and are waiting for football to resume. What does it mean for them? All these discussions are things that I cannot sit here and give answers for. Stakeholder engagement is extremely necessary in that regard, and I really want the GFA to take their time, take all factors, consider them, and come to that determination.
So you've neatly not said, yeah. You answered the question like a politician.
Even with the Premier League example, it took me time to come to the realization or to the conclusion that, let's end it and give it to Liverpool, because we are left with just a few matches to go. That's my main thing.
Exactly, and those few matches can still be a decider for certain clubs.
For certain clubs, Liverpool. Remember, they had 1 or 2 games in which, if they won, they were going to win the title anyway. If Man City lost 1 game or 2 or so, the title was going to be right for Liverpool. So that's a separate matter. And then, even in England, aside the Liverpool question, the main thing was how were you going to deal with the Champions League elements? Because the teams in 3rd, 4th, and 5th were so close. 1 point dividing them, 2 points dividing them. If you say they should end right now, and you let one team go into the Europa League when 1 point could have brought them to the Champions League and they took you to court, what are you going to do? So there are important considerations, and
It's not. It shows the impact of the times we are in. It comes to every side of it. So what's the way forward with this whole thing? When, like you said, you think we are still going to look at the whole of May in this situation?
Yeah, in Ghana, I mean, if you look at the graphs of the way other countries have gone, and with when we declared the lockdown and locked our borders, the 14 days that have passed, and you are seeing that in the last 3 or 4 days we are having a spike. That spike is going to continue for a while as community infections keep going. But in our case, you see, ours is not cut and dry because we are not effecting the lockdown as we should. And so the normal graph of people who are going to infect 1 person, 2 people, and before I go on, remember, each person who has the virus can infect 2.6 people. So if 2 people have it, it is times 2, 4. 4 times 4, 16. 16. That is why they call it an exponential virus. If we don't stay at home like we are supposed to do now, people are going to the market and infecting each other. Maybe the math from the government side is that, okay, we have 636 people who have been infected with the virus now. So let's just say that 636 per what we know times another 636, because it is exponential, is 404,000. Hopefully it doesn't get there. But let's just say this is what we have. And we keep allowing people to move and move and move. There's no end in sight yet. And I take you to places like Italy, who have said, in Italy, who have said that for football to continue, for football to even have fans in the stadium, they don't see it happening until late 2022. That is what Italy are saying. What about us? With even less robust health systems and so on, we really, I can't emphasize this enough. The way forward is that we need to somehow make sure that people are complying with the directives, else we will all collectively regret. And for me, that is the way forward. Like, we just need to obey the instruction and stay at home and do what we have to do. Government, if they need to give people food, whatever we do, we need to make sure that the numbers of new cases cuts down drastically. Those infected, they have been infected. There's nothing that can be done.
Gary, you've said it, or you've given us a message, but I just want you to say the complying of staying at home. Please say it in Ghana for us, and let's wrap it up. COVID-19.
biane me fe 600 biane bo na case womanemi ni me tomo 8 ego ye manemi biane ila me ko me wi akehihwe money but GH money is not a joke ewo biane won gba fa akeko ko ye hia oba afọ ode ke oke me yude ke ote ikulo ote jano wo ya hini beno ba hia oba afọ de ke nuke samla ko afọ de ke nuke samla okay tissue alo toilet roll ba chumo ode ko gbina keke oke wo bola mi agbere hwe hand sanitizers can be a biane achi no e be expensive jela wa tomo first square e wo ke ona ekono oyehia ket otikofio polo ba ukefio efe ode ukechumo ode ni ke ochumo ode le hwe sane ofele ne ke ukechumo ode ni egbe mu awaye ni ukewo oni ne detain ne ke bi na efe ni fe fine agbede hwe ke oye obanye face mask is an owe ko ke owo esa ni echi ogugo ke una ogugo because ke ko ke mo ye la jon ke ni bi ani ba je mo ogugo mo na boe e ba nya ya ogugo mi so you have to cover your nose, don't leave it and put it here. Face mask like I awole ni agbene mu ke oba awolo asa no wolo ne ke dabi sani o chile ne ke eja keke owolo ne ke obanya oketitra ohiye ni ehi na kai eja keke oketitra ohiye ibanya ebote unabu alo ogugomi ewo ke ochine ne ke ni ite ode agbana keke ochumo alo oduohi ewo anyamime wo fe wo kwani fale femo a fatawahi koni coronavirus alo Covid19 ne wo hale bye ni iya yerado.
Yo, Ola Gary Smith, who what double shiwa. Oh my God! So you had the man, Mr. Gary Smith. You may know him in the sports, but hey, he's done so extensive work on this corona period than even any health reporter that I know. Like he said, let's keep safe, let's obey the directive, let's stay at home. So we come your way again. It's bye-bye for now. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Smith. Bye.
Have a nice day.
Thank you.